fallout continues as consumers seek further compensation from the outage that affected over 10 million customers. The service provider offered up free data as a result of the 13-hour disruption, a proposition that has left lots of people angry.
Now, experts predict another class action lawsuit is on the horizon. It would be the second such lawsuit in recent years for the telco. The first, of course, being the result of the data breach in September of last year. Joining us now in Melbourne is Alex Martin from Taurus Legal Management. Alex, morning to you. So the way this has been handled, I mean, that's a question in itself, but Optus now providing data as a form of apology. A lot of customers, well, fair to say, are unhappy with this. Do you think they'll step up and offer more significant compensation?
Yes, good morning. I think what's been offered so far isn't going to cut it. I suspect Optus will offer, and they certainly should offer, financial compensation, particularly to those people who can show that they've suffered financial loss, so business owners who are not able to take money over the counter during the outage. I think they should be offered financial compensation, and I think Optus will eventually do that.
I mean, the thing was that even though lots of businesses then said, yes, we'll take cash, but no one carries cash anymore, or very few people do. What rights do customers have at a time like this?
Yes, well, the main right you have, which is not a very helpful right, is to a refund for the service that you haven't received. So in the case of most of the customers, they haven't received a service for 1 day, so they might get a couple of dollars back, which is what they pay for the service. That's not very helpful. I think in some cases they will be entitled to terminate their contract without penalty, and I think for the worst cases, most customers will want to do that. They'll want to move to another provider and they'll vote with their feet, if you like. And then finally, some customers will be entitled to monetary compensation. So if they were not able to take cash over the counter, or sorry, if the customers didn't have cash and weren't able to pay for their services and they've made a financial loss, then I think Optus should be responsible for that loss.
Alex, it's kind of the optics, isn't it, of the response from Optus saying, hey, we'll compensate you with data. Is that ignoring the thrust of the key issue here? Because a lot of businesses were seriously affected. And will that be the impetus of the class action?
Yes, well, I think offering a blanket solution to everyone is really not appropriate. This affected different people in different ways, and I think Optus have to deal with that. And if it comes to court, if there's a class action on this, and I expect there will be, then the court will need to determine, first of all, what caused the outage, which we still don't know, and was that Optus's fault? So Optus don't actually have to provide an uninterrupted service in all circumstances. If it wasn't Optus's fault that the outage happened, then they won't be liable. But if they are held liable, then the court will look at, well, how did that affect each individual customer or each category of customer, and how much should each customer receive in terms of compensation, which is consistent with their loss.
Look, of course, there were other customers that said, look, it was fine, I actually quite enjoyed not being switched on for those hours. But for lots of people, it was a massive deal with a flow-on effect, and they might want to jump in on that class action. How does that work?
Yes, well, customers who want to participate in the class action don't need to do anything at all. So the system in Australia for class actions is an opt-out system. So you don't need to do anything unless you want to be out of the class action, and then you need to notify. So consumers can do nothing and they'll be part of the class action. There's no real downside to being part of the class action. But I would say this, customers should take good records and keep good records of what happened to them on that Wednesday, because by the time the class action damages assessment rolls around, and we might be years down the track and people might have lost those records, and you'll only really be entitled to compensation to the extent you can prove it. So I would caution customers to make sure they can prove their loss and to keep the records.
Excellent advice. Alex Martin from Taurus Legal Management. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your insights.
Thank you.
I thought for